In a way, I think we can say that it has been, in some ways, of course, all this time. I mean, there's this perhaps this innocent, childlike image that you can see with the K-pop girl bands and so forth. But there is also an underlying sort of misogyny and also a kind of objectification of women's bodies that really underpins the way in which women are represented in K-pop and on stage.
So that I imagine too would talk to the two male stars who were found guilty of rape, and this was with some of their fans. So is it a question that the stars of the industry are out of control, or is it the industry itself that creates this kind of problem?
I think this is more a symptom of the way in which Korean society actually really now needs to come to terms with the fact that we need to really look at how women's bodies are represented in popular culture in, more broadly. I think there is I mean, Korea has had this sort of historical problem with violence against women's bodies, and also it doesn't rank very high on the OECD gender equality rankings either. So this is more of a symptom of a broader social issue rather than just an issue with these individual K-pop stars, in my view.
And so how else does it manifest itself within Korean society?
Well, of course, women find it harder to, say, find leadership jobs. There is a lot of sexual harassment can happen in workplaces. Women find it very difficult to report instances of sexual violence. And often there is just this assumption that if you, say, go out and have a good time and you're wearing party clothing, that you're really asking for it. In some ways, it's not so different to what we see in Australia, where people sort of just make excuses of saying that women are just asking for it if they go out there and show a little bit of skin. But in Korea, there is a real kind of sense, a commodification almost of the K-pop stars' bodies, and also more broadly, perhaps women's bodies. Of course, not all women's bodies, but there is an issue here that really needs to be tackled, and Korean government is taking steps to do this, but this is something that you can't legislate your way out of.
No. And the industry itself, the K-pop industry, is it very hierarchical the way it's set up? I mean, how much power do the actual stars, individual stars, have?
That depends on the star themselves, obviously. Female stars tend to have less say, I would say, than the sort of more established male stars. So typically, your average K-pop band with 5 or 7 band members wouldn't really have very much say over their choices of, even in terms of who they date. But if you manage to make it in the industry and work up your way, of course you have a little bit more say as an artist. But it is a problem that the band members often feel that they are almost owned by the management company.
And I would, the 2 recent suicides, apparent suicide, would suggest that social media is also playing a part in it. There's this vilification of these young women.
Yes, the social media aspect is really quite worrying. It's a broader issue again in Korean society. It's a very hyper-visual society where people often, in not ways different to Australia in some respects, where young girls and boys as well put selfies on the internet, and then seek to gain kind of self-acceptance from others through that way. For the K-pop stars, it's even more intense because, of course, their popularity depends on the fans, and the fans often expect, if not demand, this kind of 24/7 media presence, and that can be very trying. And the other issue that the K-pop industry also has, and I think which is a big issue and played a big part in these recent deaths, is that Korean society hasn't really had a very sort of open attitude towards mental health and mental illness. So this is an issue that the government and also the society needs to really start having a very open and honest and respectful conversations about.
And Jo, do you get the sense that the Korean government is coming to terms with it? I mean, are they taking measures to try and counter some of these issues?
Yes, the president himself, President Moon Jae-in, has now said a couple of times that he would take action, and I think only as recently as in October he said that he really was going to elevate gender equality as one of those main issues that he wants to really address. But yes, there is still a lot to be done, and like I said, it's difficult for governments to legislate out of problems that are so persistent in society, where women's bodies are really not respected always as a kind of their autonomous entities. So there is a lot of work to be done also in the field of cultural representations and the value put on women's bodies. And I think the recent sort of movements where women have come out to the streets and they protested, saying things like "My life is not your porn" and the hashtag #MeToo movement in Korea, which was very big last year, are really a kind of a positive sign that women are actually now themselves taking a lot of action on a kind of grassroots level to change the situation.
Jo, really interesting insights. Thank you.
Thank you.